Intersection Magazine Podcast.
Welcome to Intersection Magazine Podcast. In this episode, I will be discussing a piece or a conversation I had, which falls, I suppose, in between fatherhood and technology and trends. So, in thinking about this post, I almost felt like it could feature both in the podcast that has to do with technology and innovation, as well as my more spiritually minded podcast that has to do with just the subject of fatherhood, and maybe for those of you who are into the same area, mentoring. So I hope you guys enjoy this few minutes. Thank you for listening. Thank you for subscribing. So in Uganda or in Kampala, there is a service called Safe Border. You pretty much hail motorcycles to pick you up and take you to your destination. They also have a vehicle service which was introduced after the success of the motorcycles. Now, these were kind of created to help stem a business that was really growing very fast, but security and safety was a concern. So someone created an application to help manage the fleet of motorcycles, whereby drivers could be trained in safety and first aid, as well as any other skills that would be necessary for one to be in this industry. So the conversation I had was with one of these people who was part of this industry, or at least part of this company. Now, the thing with these drivers is some of them don't exclusively, at least in my view, work for one company, especially the ones who are part of the car hailing service. So you may have a driver with an app for Uber, a driver with an app for Safecar. So different types of drivers that you sometimes will meet. They've been disruptive in the sense that before you would spend quite a hefty chunk of cash for what we used to be called special hire cars or taxis. Here they call them special hires. The taxis are usually used to describe 16-seater vans. So what you have really is a system where you call and they show up and they help get you to the destination that you described in the application. So it was a normal day. I had just come from a tech event. It's actually an AGM for one of the groups for which I'm a subscriber. And, I called on to the vehicle, the border or the motorcycle, and he came and we started going. On the way, he began to ask me some pointed questions about technology. He asked me, for example, what's computer engineering? What is software engineering? What is, some really pointed questions. And he was asking me these questions in the mother tongue. So first, a part of me almost panics. How do you translate all these ideas about programming and coding to a person who's obviously never possibly even touched a computer? The closest he's ever gotten to working with these devices is maybe his phone. And most people you will find don't even use smartphones. They have these very basic phones that use buttons. So here I was trying to explain to this man what some of these different options are that exist. And then he went on to explain that he has a child who is at one of the leading universities in the country, and the child was trying to ask his dad or explain to his dad why he was going to go for one particular computer science subject as opposed to another. I think it really was a discussion about data science or things of that nature versus standard computing programs or computing applications, and the pursuit of maybe information technology, etc., etc. So the child that spoke to the father was trying to explain why he was going to go for the one that didn't have too many subscribers, which ended up being, of course, the harder one. And, that was a smart choice for the age in which we live. But I also explained to him the complexities that now exist with artificial intelligence, explaining to him that we're in an age where we were teaching computers to do the jobs that we're doing, and the computers were turning out to be a little bit more efficient, meaning the job or task that was before assigned to 20 people was now being done by just one machine. So I explained to him the complexities that exist with artificial intelligence and the possibility that even his son with his skills would one day be obsolete, or at least would have to engage, if possible, with artificial intelligence and these tools to enhance his skills and his abilities. So in the conversation, I realized something strange about fatherhood. It's like you you probably will never learn anything about what your son is doing, but you're plugged in 24/7, working like crazy to make sure that your son goes through the school to become better than you'll ever be. Whether your son appreciates your effort or not is another story altogether, but in a sense, you're stuck in a place where you believe in education. You believe that if your son puts in enough effort and chooses the right course, then he can surpass you. He can go beyond what you've gone beyond or what you've done. So that was a fascinating conversation that I had. Of course, trying to explain some of these concepts in the local language was another thing. And then realizing the sacrifice that fathers have to make, and realizing, of course, the benefits of mentorship and fatherhood itself, where sometimes you have to show people where they can get to when you yourself are not necessarily going to get there. So that's really the subject that I think stood out a few weeks ago as I made my trip from that facility to this one. Of course, other ideas that stood out to me was how to translate or how to communicate some of what we have in our university settings to people in our local languages. You find that people that use, for example, languages like Swahili make efforts to translate and to convert or to make sure that terms that are being used in the computer world and new technologies are also being made available to those who exist in these natural or traditional spaces. And that's an effort that has to be commended. As I said, I struggled to find terms and that I would use for him to understand programming, applications, coding, machine language, applications, this whole concept of zeros and ones, this whole concept of different programming languages and what they can do, artificial intelligence, data science, data mining, all sorts of other subjects. So much as this is a technology-related podcast, it's also, I suppose, a thumbs up for those of you who are mentoring and those of you who are in the fatherhood space, motherhood, that are investing in your children heavily, believing that they can go beyond where you have gotten to. Once again, thank you for listening. Thank you for subscribing. I've been your host, Nicholas Kianda.
Intersection.
Intersection Magazine Podcast.